Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Em of Em Asks Why, and I am here for my second WIP and Chat. It's been a minute since I last did one of these. Life happened, but I'm really excited to be here. If you are new, welcome on in. And if you are returning, it is so good to see you again. Today, I am going to be working on Feline Familiars by Chrissabug. This is one that I've been working on for a little bit, and I'm excited to just kind of keep moving along with it. It's going to be kind of casual talking vibes today, like most WIP and Chats. I wanted to show you, so I'm going to be using this super cute needle minder, Coverminder from Shire Shenanigans, Nicole over at Shire Shenanigans. I actually was really lucky, and I won this from the Stealthy Crafter. She hosted the Chrissabug along, and I actually won this in one of the weekly prizes, and that's really cool because I had been wanting one from Nicole anyway, and then I just happened to win it. So thank you so much both to Nicole and to Stealthy Crafter for this great event. So the event has ended, but I'm still working on this piece. I didn't finish the piece in the month of April, but I did get the amount done, the 30 by 30, but so I'm still working on it. So we're going to be just kind of plugging along on that today. I've gotten kind of the upper part of the canvas done and then part of the right side. And so now I'm going down the left side, and then I'm saving the middle of the canvas for last because the middle of the canvas has the two little kitties. And so I'm saving them for last. So we're just going to kind of go for it today. I was really excited yesterday to film a WIP and Chat. And then today I am struggling. Isn't that how things go? Ripping plastic. I haven't talked about this yet on the channel because it's a new channel, but I am neurodivergent. And in the past couple years, I've been really kind of coming to terms with that and what that means. And something that's been popping up a lot for me recently is just kind of observing and acknowledging how difficult transitions are for me. And I mean transitions both in like big life phases and also just day to day, like changing between activities. I have been really struggling with the task inertia recently. And I'm not sure how much of it is that the struggle is new, or I'm just now kind of aware of the emotions that transitions bring up for me. But it's been tough. And it's been tough just like making things happen, even things that I really want to do, like filming a WIP and Chat. Moving from one task to another is just, it's hard. And if you're somebody who's neurodivergent, you probably get it. You're probably like, yes, Em, I know exactly what you mean. And if you're not neurodivergent, it's one of those things that just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Or if this isn't a form of executive dysfunction that's challenging for you, people are like, well, you just do it. I'm like, no, that's not how my brain works. That is what I want to have happen. And that is not what happens in reality. It's like this wall. It's like this energetic wall comes up. And even though you're like, okay, I need to do this thing now. I want to go do this thing now. Brain, it's time for us to go do this thing now. There's just nothing. It's like, there's no power. And so that's been hard. And so then when you do try and like effectively brute force yourself into doing it, that uses up a lot of spoons. The thing that I've been finding that's been working recently, which doesn't mean it will last forever, nor does it mean that it will necessarily work for other people, because again, this is neurodivergence and not everything works for one the way it works for another. But so the thing that's been working for me most recently is either I'm just like totally distracting myself and making my brain think about something else, and then kind of letting my body take over in terms of standing up. And then once I'm standing, it's a little bit easier to go do the thing. So either that or audio. if I have something else to listen to, if I have audio sensory input, that makes things a little bit easier. And I don't mean like so some people like change music is like, oh, okay, I'm going to put on this song and this is the song that I put on. That means it's time for me to go do this thing. That's not what I mean. Like that works great for some people. What I mean is like just even having something on in the background, like background noise, which is pretty new for me because I do tend to be sensitive to sound and I like quiet a lot. But I've been finding that by having audio on in the background, it's a little bit easier to essentially distract myself into going and doing whatever it is that I want to be doing next. And so I've been thinking a lot about how the rise of daytime television and how perhaps that may in part be fueled, or I shouldn't say fueled, but connected to neurodivergence. I know that daytime television in a lot of ways came about from people who stayed at home, typically women, to work inside the home, do care tasks and family tasks. And so they had something on in the background that was easy to go in and out of the room while they were working on it, like folding laundry or meal prepping or what have you. And so it's pretty low stakes audio content. And so I've been thinking about that a lot as I've been putting on things in the background, either other people's WIP and Chats or just ambiance content or just other things. It's tend to be more long form content. I'm not really like long form video content, not as much audiobooks, not as much podcasts recently, but that's just recently. Yeah. And it's just something that I've been thinking about of like, okay, so this is where a lot of this came from. I'm not necessarily interested in picking up a soap opera, so to speak. Though I have a new appreciation for where that kind of content came from and the value in it. Like I didn't really understand the appeal or the reasoning behind a lot of daytime soap operas until now. Now that I am older, spending more time at home, I do have to create my own structure and still make things happen while battling inertia, task inertia. It's like, oh, okay. And I know there's many, many factors that contributed to daytime television. So I'm not saying this is the one and only. I know a lot of it is also like a sense of marketing and advertising, and then creating quote unquote women's content, and then, storytelling in new media, like all of that. This is just one perspective that I'm thinking about this from. So, and so related to that, now that we're in May, which is where I live in North Carolina, we are, we're pretty much in summer. There's just the tail end of spring hanging around a little bit, but we're in summer. And so thinking about summer and all of the things that summer brings up. Where was I going with this thought? I had a thought here, and of course I lost it. That should tell you where my brain is, that I keep losing these thoughts. Where did I want to go with this about summer? I don't remember where my original thought was, but I know where I can take it. So summer is a challenging time for me. I am not a summer person. I'm very sensitive to heat and to humidity, which again, living in North Carolina, that's like a thing. That's like a very real, I think I need to move. Yeah. Okay. Summer in North Carolina is a challenge, especially if you are neurodivergent and sensitive to heat. And so every summer things get a little tricky. And that season has definitely been settling in. And so I've been thinking a lot about, okay, you know, how do I want to approach the summer and how do I want to manage this? And I'm in a new home because we moved in March. And so, you know, learning all of that. How does the house feel during the summer? You know, what can I do to make the environment more supportive for me? And then, you know, managing my energy levels, because genuinely my energy levels change during the summer. I just have less energy. I do get overstimulated more easily. I do kind of need to take more rests and more breaks. And I always kind of try and rebel against this every year. And I'm like, no, this year's going to be different. I'm going to make it different. I'm going to have the hack that I need in order to function like a neurotypical. Shocker. Every year, that does not actually happen. You know, hope springs eternal. And, you know, ignorance is bliss kind of thing, all of that. So I've been butting up against, okay, I've been wanting to sleep during the middle of the days. So like right now I'm actually quite tired because it's the middle of the day. And even though it's not particularly hot today, it's the season for it. And I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones that they're like, you should be sleeping. And so I'm trying to reckon with this identity, you know, how much makes sense for me to try and, let's say, push through some of the tiredness and some of the desire to sleep because it is inertia, task avoidance, executive dysfunction. Like how much of that is what my body and my life needs, and how much of it is no, really, like you have a disability. And the more you set in healthy accommodations for yourself, the better it's going to be. Because I have a lot of internalized ableism, certainly about myself. And this idea of claiming the label of disabled is still pretty new and pretty wild, and is not something that I'm really like going forward with a lot. I'm still trying it out. Which again is its own form of internalized ableism. You know, the circle is round. The calls are coming from inside the house. So it's just, that's where my brain is at. I realize that was just a very long and rambly approach to the start of this video. Apologies that I don't have those thoughts a little bit more cohesive. Let me look at my notes. Yeah, basically just, kind of in that slump time and figuring out, okay, what is this summer going to look like for me? And how am I going to approach it? I have been more successful in finding ways to manage my energy in less draining, or I'm getting better at recognizing signs of being overstimulated and proactively taking some pauses so I have fewer crash outs or meltdowns. I don't really melt down. I mostly shut down, which those are cousins to each other. It's just most of mine is internalized, and I just kind of shut down. And it's been better that I have fewer shutdowns, or the shutdowns are less intense in their duration. They're still there. But so I think I take those things as a win, but it means I have to do quite a bit of energetic planning. And sometimes you just can't. Sometimes it's just like things happen, or, you know, it's more humid on a day than I had planned on, or I didn't sleep well the night before. So, for example, last night, for some reason, no idea why, I had a ton of nightmares. I don't know what happened. I don't know where it came from. This is something that used to happen to me more regularly, that I would have nightmares. And then it died down for a little while. and now they're happening again. At least they did last night. And so I woke up startled a couple times. And it's, that's just kind of a disruptive way to sleep. And so that plus just kind of everything is like, okay, I don't feel as rested today as I had really, really wanted to feel. And a lot of it is just, I'm kind of tired of feeling tired. I really am. I'm really tired of feeling tired. But I also recognize that feeling tired is frequently my body's defense mechanism for an emotional dysfunction. When I am coming up against that, my body says, oh, no, you're tired. You need to sleep. And it's not that I really need to sleep. It's that it's fighting the dopamine withdrawal or the dysregulation. And sleep is just an easier state for my body to manage. And so trying to suss out, are you actually tired? Or is this just that you don't want to do it, or that your brain thinks you don't want to do it? And then when you go do the task, you're not going to be tired anymore. That's something that happens to me. So for example, on Wednesday, I had a dentist appointment, and I've had this dentist appointment scheduled for a while. Going to the dentist is nobody's favorite thing. And it's when I have big appointments like that, I'm exhausted before them. I am drained. I am tired. All I want to do is sleep. And I've figured out through trial and error that is, it's a defense mechanism. And it's not actually that I'm tired, because then once I go do the appointment and I'm done with it, then I'm awake. I'm awake and I'm upbeat and I'm fine. And that's without sleeping. It's just, I got the thing done that I had been dreading. And so I've been trying to work out more and figure out more, okay, how much of this is genuine tiredness and how much of this is just avoidance. It's an ongoing battle. But on other news, things have been going like fairly well otherwise. Like there's nothing huge going on that's, one way or another. The dogs are good. Barnacle is good. Taters is good. She's getting into her summer swing of things. Poor Rain, she's our anxious little girl, and we're still figuring out her tummy issues. Storm is having some allergies, which he had allergies last year, so that's not really a surprise. We have some Apoquel, so we've been trying to proactively help him so that he's not itchy. Rain, we're still working out, but like on the whole, they're fine. It's just, some of the like new dog, new family, new routine stuff that you learn throughout the first year. We'll be coming up on a year of having adopted the dogs in July, and Barnacle's Gotcha Day is actually next week, and that will be 5 years with him, which is wild to think about, but also really great. Just so great that we've been able to have his presence in our lives for 5 years. They are all getting along right now. There was a little bit of a kerfluffle last night, but it's just kind of sibling stuff. So that is still going great in the new house, that all of the animals are much more comfortable with each other. They're sleeping in the same rooms. They're not cuddling, but they're like sleeping close to each other. Barnacle is now sleeping on the couch at the same time as the dogs, as long as one of us is on the couch, and they're starting to play together a little bit. So it's just positive trend all around, which is such a relief. And it's so cute. Like, it's just so cute. For example, a couple nights ago, Rain had one of her balls and she was playing with it a little bit inside. And then Barnacle came over and was like, oh, a ball. And he started to chase it a little bit and then bunny kick it the way cats do. And it was really cute. And Rain was not bothered by it. So she was like, okay, you play with that now. I'm going to go play with this other thing. So they weren't necessarily like together playing, but there was sharing. There was sharing going on. And so that was so fun. And then what else? Work has been working. I got an email this week from my manager asking if I would want to change the days that I work. So I work 3/12s at the local hospital, and I work mid shift, which I love. I really enjoy the mid shift hours. They work well for my circadian rhythm. I think it's interesting. Like I have no problem with that. And they were asking that if I would be interested in switching my days to different days in the week, just based on like the metrics of need, because I'm the only person currently working mid shift. Everyone else works either day shift, night shift. And so they're like, okay, the heat maps are showing that we have more patient influx and fewer clinicians at X time instead of Y time. You know, would you be interested in shifting? And like, yeah, more or less I could. I don't have a particular allegiance to the days that I'm working because Tater's schedule is kind of irregular as well. She does not work a 9 to 5. She does not work a super structured time. There's a lot of variability in which days and which times she works because she works as a park ranger. And so just the way their schedule's set up, it's not like we know exactly when we would or wouldn't be able to see each other. So because of that, there's some flexibility. So I've been thinking about switching the days that I would work. So I asked a couple questions, you know, back to my manager about, hey, like when would it start and would this be impacted? Would this be impacted? And she got back to me and all of the things make sense. So I'm going to talk with Taters again tonight, but most likely I'm going to do it just because I've been in my current position for a little over a year and a half. And I like the role. I like the daily duties. I like what I do as a clinician. So I'm not looking to change that. But sometimes, you know, a little bit of variation can be good after a year and a half. I think it might show, you know, okay, a willingness to help out, you know, willingness to adjust my schedule. And there's 2 people I really enjoy working with who I do not currently get to work with because of our shifts. But if I moved to the new days, then I would be able to work with them. And so that would be nice. You know, just, you know, spending time with colleagues that I really like. And that makes a big difference when you work in a hospital and you have a pretty, you know, high emotional needs job. Getting along with your colleagues is like a huge thing. So I've been thinking about doing that. Oh, I don't think I told y'all. No, I haven't done a WIP and Chat. So last week, was it last week? Yes, last week, Monday, I did a training for the local, how do I explain this? So I work at a level 1 trauma center hospital, and that means that it is the local hub for the medical disaster response. So whenever something happens in the state and there is a need for a medical response, so doctors, nurses, other healthcare workers, the state puts out a call to this group, and the hospital I work at is the hub for our area because it's the level 1 trauma center. And so they will put out a request for volunteers based on, hey, you know, the state needs X, Y, and Z to either set up a shelter or run a vaccine site or, you know, respond to a wildfire or, you know, some other kind of epidemic, you know, what have you. They coordinate that response with the other groups. And this is something that I've been really interested in. I used to volunteer. I should say I did my previous internship with the American Red Cross in their disaster response team. This is something that's been super interesting to me, especially disaster mental health. And so I've been wanting to be a part of this group ever since I joined this hospital. And I finally got to take the training last week to like officially join the group, the orientation. And so that was really interesting because it was at the site where all of the stuff is stored, and the main logistics guy was there. So he took us around after the training. He took us through the warehouse to show us, you know, a lot of the items that are used, like these massive tents. They're these medical tents that are like 40 by 40 feet. They're huge. And, you know, they're stored in these big metal crates, and you showed us, you know, these are the tents, and like, this is a rough idea of how they get set up. And then here are the crates of all the medical supplies, and this is the stuff that comes with. And so it's just a very different approach to medical care than being in a stationary location like a hospital or a clinic. And so that was just really interesting to get to see it. And I'm excited to be on this team. I've never been physically deployed myself. I did a virtual deployment for the Tennessee flooding a couple years ago. I did volunteer with Helene. I put my name in. But the one opportunity that I would have been able to help out with, like, I wasn't the right person. And I said, look, I'm not the right person for this. You need my colleague, you know, Jennifer. That's not her name, but, you know, you need my colleague for this. And so she went and helped. But I am hopeful that in the future I will be able to go on and do this kind of thing. I'm really interested in mental health response to traumatic events, because the current, let's say, interventions right now are based around just kind of treating all mass response, mass casualty events. They treat them all the same, whether it is man-made versus natural disaster. And I have, we need data. We need data to show that, like, those traumas and the trauma responses that come out of survivors, like, is it the same? Or does the origin of the event play a role in trauma formation? I think that's a really important and interesting question, because a lot of the times what people struggle with is the why, or having a sense of closure, you know, closure from the event, closure from the reality. And so for some people, you know, if it's a natural disaster, the idea of, well, you know, whoever God is to me, you know, my God is in charge of this. It's, you know, out of my hands, versus a man-made event or person-created event is like, okay, how could somebody do this? How could somebody reach that state? And so for some people, they struggle with that, or vice versa. You know, the senselessness of a natural disaster could also be conflicting for some people. You know, how no matter what your resources are, a hurricane doesn't care. You know, a hurricane's going to be a hurricane. And so I think there's room for study, and I would love to get involved in research projects on this, because there haven't been. And I really think there need to be, to look into the origins of trauma and how we treat it. To some extent, we have some research on this in terms of like adverse childhood events and how that impacts trauma formation. But for large scale events, I don't think... last I checked, which it's been a couple of years, so maybe there's something different. But last I checked, there's not really a lot of research on it. And our current policies, at least in the US, are based out of a 9/11 response. That's when this field really kicked off, was after 9/11. Understandably so. But it's like, okay, it's been enough time now that we really need to look into, what are we doing? What are the best practices? Are they actually best practices? Or is it just, okay, this is what we're going to try until we have a better idea. And now we need to know, is there a better idea? You know, we're moving out of the, well, we have to do something phase and into, are we doing the right thing? And I'm interested in the data that says, are we doing the right thing? Or are there ways to improve how we support survivors? Which, this is something I've always been interested in. I have absolutely no idea how to move my career in that direction. Just because of the nature of the world and who provides. disaster response and where the funding comes from. Things are up in the air. So I have no idea how to make that like a long-term development, but it's something I want to do. But we'll see. We will see. There's a lot of things I'm interested in mental health. Let's see what else. Anything else work? A couple weeks ago, I had really wanted to do a WIP and Chat right after Independent Bookstore Day, but I was not able to film. Just timing and the energy levels that I mentioned did not help. But I did participate in Independent Bookstore Day. I went to 3. Yes, I went to 3 local bookstores, had a great time, bought a whole bunch of books. I posted a picture a while ago in the Crafters Den Discord. I got 8 different books, which is more than I had planned on, but I don't feel super bad about it. Because only one of them was like an impulse buy. The rest of them were books that had been on my to-read list, and 4 of them were from a used bookstore. And I was like, okay, I know I'm not going to read these immediately, but these are books that I definitely want to read. They're books that I want to have the physical copy of for resource purposes, because they're all nonfiction. They're all in my I read fun things that make me fun at parties group. Things like How to Survive Climate Collapse, and the rise of religious fundamentalism in the U.S. You know, those kinds of really light topics. But yeah, so those are some of the topics of things that I got. I'm really looking forward to reading them. I really am. But Independent Bookstore Day, it was fun. It was really great to see just the response from the community and how busy everyone was, but in like a fun way. And even though driving into Raleigh was not like my favorite part, because it's very overstimulating on a Saturday to be driving into the city, I'm still really glad that I did it. I'm glad that I went. So downtown, they had an art event that I didn't really know was going on, and it was right next door or right in front of one of the bookshops that I went to. And so I walked around a little bit and stopped at a couple different booths. And that was, that's always fun to see, like, what are some of the local arts stuff. I bought a print. I bought an art print from one vendor of the lunar calendar of 2025, because I'd been wanting one and hadn't found one, and then they had them there on sale. I recognized that we're like in May, and at the time it was April. So I knew it was like, okay, quite a bit of this has already passed, but I still want the calendar for the rest of the year. So I got one. It's cute. It's hanging downstairs. So we can look at when is it a full moon, and does the full moon coincide when either of us are working? Because Taters and I both have jobs that things get fun when it's a full moon, especially because I work the night shift. Then otherwise, I've been thinking a lot about like the hobbies that I want to get back into. I made my first loaf of bread. I am a sourdough girl. I have a sourdough starter, Hulda, who I love and adore. And I have been unintentionally ignoring Hulda since I moved to the new house. But I finally baked my first loaf last weekend. It was delicious. I don't know if the water is different or the temperature was different, but the flavor was really good. The rise was really good. If you've ever baked sourdough bread, then you know that it is part science and part witchcraft. You can try and control as much as you want, and then some things will just happen, and you're like, I don't really know why this bread either turned out much better or much worse than the other bread. In this case, the bread was a lot better, and I don't know. I don't know why. So I think next week I'm going to make another loaf. I didn't have time this week, but next week I'll make another loaf to see what's replicated and what's not in terms of, okay, like how does the oven in this house behave? How does the water impact Hulda? And just, all of those things. Some of it might be that the lamp on our stove in this house is warmer than the lamp on the stove in the old house. And so leaving her to rise overnight, the starter, she had more ambient heat, and it could be that that's something she likes. I don't know. We will just kind of see. But it did feel really, really good to be baking, to have made bread again. There's something just very homey and satisfying about it. And as a crafter, that's really wonderful to be able to feed my family, as weird as that sounds. It's a care. It's a form of care for me. And it's also fun to just to get my hands in and to experiment with. Then, which, yeah, I want to try making, adding some more inclusions into my bread. So I've been really focusing for the past year on just like basic loaves, or loaves with maybe some herbs in them, sage, basil, some flavored salts, whatnot. But I'd like to start adding in cheeses or fruits. I've been seeing a recipe for like a lemon blueberry cream cheese sourdough going around Facebook, and that's intriguing. But the reason I've been slow to approach it is when you add inclusions, it changes a lot of the science that goes on in the bread. And so I want to make sure I have a firm understanding of what goes on. So when I do it, I'm able to balance that out. So for example, when you add in sugar, it changes how the water responds in the bread. And so it makes the bread kind of squishier and stickier. And so you need to compensate for that. Or when you add fruit has a higher water content. And so you need to know how your fruit is going to respond, which also determines when you add it into the bread. And so just there's a lot of science that goes into it that I want to be able to monitor, and not just like, okay, I'm throwing this together, I'm leaving it overnight on the counter, and then I'm throwing it in the oven, which is kind of where I'm at with standard loaves, because I have a strong enough understanding of like, okay, this is how this works. This is how the bread should feel. Is it a little dry? Is it a little wet? Adjust accordingly, but adding inclusions in is a big science step up. But yeah, that'll be a fun thing to work on. My seeds are not doing well, and that's all me. I neglected them for too long. I did not get them potted up the way I needed to. And I think most of them have not survived, which is completely my fault. And so what I'm debating is, do I want to start a new batch of just like 2 or 3 plants? I had originally had big plans for this summer, and that's clearly not happening. And so I'm debating, do I want to start just a couple plants? Because we have a long growing season in North Carolina. I think if I, put them under the lights now and just kind of boosted them, we might be able to still get a harvest, certainly out of like tomatoes and that kind of thing, even though it's a little late. Or do I just want to say, throw in the towel on seeds this year, go to the local nursery and just buy a couple seedlings? Which I don't mind doing that on like pepper plants, jalapeno plants, which I wasn't having good success with the jalapenos this year anyway. and they take forever to come up. So I know I wouldn't be able to get seedlings of those. But I may just go to the local nursery and buy a pepper plant, a jalapeno plant, and, you know, try again next year. And remind myself that no, really, you can't manage a move and starting seeds at the same time. It's just, it's too much mental stuff. Which, like, I kind of knew that, but I was wishful thinking that, oh no, it's not going to be that bad. This is the wishful thinking that I was alluding to at the beginning of this video about energy levels and not having a disability. So the poor plants. I need to put some of the things in the compost because it's just, they're not coming back. They are gone. So a lot of the garden stuff will have to wait. But I suppose I could focus on some flower gardening this year instead. Like, we have the front of the house now that we can actually decorate, you know, within reason, however we want. And I've never done like that kind of flower gardening before. And now is like the time to put some of those things in the ground and figure out, okay, how do I kind of want this front area to look? And so that's something that I could work on with taters. That would still be a good use of some of the dirt and the supplies that I got. You know, it's not going to waste. So the other option is there's some plants that you can start for like the cold season or for a late fall. And a lot of those I've never grown before because by the time it gets to that period, my hands are literally so full of tomatoes that I'm like, I can't handle anything else. But I could decide to try one or two of those this year since I'm not going to have as many plants on my hands, literally, to be managing. And then the peas that I wanted to do, they have a second window just in general. And I have enough pea seeds that I can aim for that window. So what I should do is go and look at my little planting calendar. Tater's got me a planting calendar for my birthday that it's this fun little slider. It's like a piece of paper that slides, and then you set the frost date for your region, and then it shows you like approximate planting times for all of the different herbs and fruits and veggies. And peas are such a short season that they can have 2 growing seasons, one in the spring and one in the fall. And so I might be able to target the fall growing season for the peas, which could be fun. And then diamond painting updates. Pretty much just I've been plugging away on this piece. I haven't worked on Books and Nooks yet. I put it aside until May for May with You May, which I'm not really participating in that event. I'm in the Facebook group, but I'm not really like, you know, I'm not going for any prizes or anything like that. Oh, goodness. Okay. But I think what I'll do once I finish this piece, I will pull Books and Nooks back out and I'm going to try and finish it because I really want the Elizabeth Ward kit that Books and Nooks is in. I want to kit up the Crafter's Den Spring Mystery into that set. Actually, I should count the colors because I may have enough trays from the Elizabeth Ward to kit up into as is. So I should actually count it because I know I want to do the Spring Mystery in the Elizabeth Ward. I don't want to do it in the, the Frankenstein kit up like I have for this. And also, like, I just don't want to have a ton of whips going. It's just not my jam. Don't really want to do that. I want to try and keep things within reason for myself. That's not at all a comment on anyone else. It's just for myself. This is how I approach things. And Books and Nooks has been a WIP since January or February, like literally months, because I am a slow diamond painter. And so it's like, I want to also finish it. I want to be able to hang it in this room. This is the craft room. We have a chair now. Barnacle is in the chair. It's to the left of me. He's curled up in it sleeping. We found a chair at the local restore, brought it home, steam cleaned it, and Taters fell asleep in it the other night. So it's working great. It gets a stamp of approval to have that. So that's great. So the room is coming together. Next up, I need to work on the game room / bonus room. We need a couch. I think I found one on Amazon that might be something that we get. It's not a super, it would be kind of like a midterm piece, but I think it might work for a couple years as we figure out, okay, first of all, like, where are we going to stay? You know, are we staying in this area or are we actually moving? Because we've talked for a while about, do we want to move once I get my license, which is coming up very soon. And if we do, you know, I don't want to move a bunch of huge expensive furniture. Like, that just doesn't make sense for us if we don't have to. So the couch that I found is modular and less of an investment piece. So I may get that couch, and then we would be able to have that room be more functional than it currently is, which would be nice. We could actually play our video games together. Right now, we've been watching things either on my computer here because I have a big monitor, or we've been watching them on the iPad, which is like fine, but we do have a very large TV that we were very generously gifted. And so it's like, we should use that. We have it. Let's use it. All this little confetti in her face. One more. 3. Oh, I didn't talk about the tools that I'm using. So this pen is from Diamond Painting Pens on Etsy. Taters got me this. It looks like the Earth to me, and she got it for me for Earth Day. I like it because it's got the roll stop. It's acrylic. It's a little bit bigger, like longer than I have my other pens, but it's not bothering me too much. And today I am using Patty Wax, like the normal Patty Wax in the single placer. I've been trying Patty Wax and WE Wax, kind of alternating between them to see like which one do I like better. I definitely think it's going to be like a climate issue. Which one do I use? And then this is from Black Wolf Woodworks. This is one of his hybrid pens. I love this pen. I love the length of it. I love that it's hybrid. It's super light. And so my hand doesn't cramp when I use it. So I really, really enjoy this pen. I want to get more from him. He's having a sale right now that if you buy 2 pens, they're 25% off. And I keep staring at things and I keep putting them in my cart. I need to sit down and look at my budget because I've got a little bit of money saved up. And so it's time for me to make some like pretty big adult decisions on what do I want to do with this money? Do I just want to leave it in cash? Do I want to move any of it over into long-term savings? long-term investment, or do I want to start some short or midterm investments? And that's kind of those statements right there are kind of the extent of my knowledge on short and midterm investments. I know about savings accounts and I know about long-term investment strategies. I don't really know a lot about midterm and short-term investment strategies. And this is something that I've been thinking about more. I listened to a podcast from Culture Study, the Culture Study podcast. And they had a guest on who talked about non-budget financial culture. So I think of it as akin to a non-diet culture, like anti-fat bias, like rejecting anti-fat bias in your approach to nutrition and taking that same kind of mindset. So rejecting a scarcity mindset and applying that to your financial health and financial literacy. And that resonates really well with me because so much of budgeting is talked about in language. It's very similar to diet culture of restriction and a lot of shame, particularly for people who are raised as women, around financial literacy and you're managing your own financial health. And so this financial educator, her name is Dana Moran, I think. She writes from a perspective of, okay, how do you manage your money and how do you treat budget in the strictest sense of this is just the money that I have coming in and the money that is going out and what is the information that I need to know about that. And so how do you manage your budget from a non-shame-based philosophy and a non-diet-based approach? And that resonates really well with me. And so I need to learn some more from her. She wrote a book that I would like to read as I figure out, okay, how do I want to manage these midterm investments? Because I think it's time to move some of the money out of, it's just sitting in a general savings account. It's not really doing anything. So it's not shrinking, but it's also not growing. And for some of the midterm goals that Taters and I have, I need it to grow a little bit. So yeah, and it's also just like, it's just time for me to learn these things. I tend to be the financial planner of our relationship, which I'm fine with. Like that's a role that I am happy to take on. And so I want to make sure that we are well set up for the future in both of our financial strategies. But so if you are somebody who's like, I want to change my relationship to money and I don't like a lot of the weird shame-based stuff. If you're somebody who doesn't love Dave Ramsey's philosophies, but you're not sure what else to look into, I would strongly recommend the Culture Study podcast, that one episode in particular. I will try and link to it below. Or Dana Moran, she also has a Substack newsletter that you can subscribe to, both free and paid content. And then, of course, the book. And the book is available at local libraries. At least it's available at my local library. And my local library doesn't have the most robust catalog when it comes to nonfiction. So my guess is it would probably be available at a lot of other people's library systems as well. Then kind of back on the hobby thoughts, I want to do a de-stash of some of my yarn. I've been thinking about it, and I have a lot of yarn that I've held on to for many, 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 many years. And I think it's time to just kind of slim down. There's some yarn that is beautiful and it's gorgeous and I love it, but I don't think I'm ever going to actually work it into a project on my own. So I think it's time for it to go to a new home. So I'm going to try and get together a de-stash. Either I'm still debating, do I want to do it as a spreadsheet or a series of Discord posts? But I think that's something that needs to happen over the next couple of weeks, just to kind of move things around. And as I get this room more settled, to open up a little bit more space. Then, oh gosh, I've already been talking for like almost an hour. That went faster than I had thought. I thought I was talking super slow, which I suppose I am still speaking slowly, just longer than I had thought. Let's see. Okay, that was the hearts. Then what else did I want to bring up? Oh, I've been volunteering. This is something I've been really excited about. I've been really enjoying, and this is what I'm going to go do after the WIP and Chat. I found a therapeutic writing center kind of close to me, about 30 minutes away. And I saw a Facebook ad that they were looking for volunteers, and they, I think I may have talked about this in the past Kitten Chat. I'm not sure. But they were looking for volunteers to come and either be horse leaders or sidewalkers or just kind of like help with barn chores. And I used to be a horse girl growing up, and I miss them. I miss horses a lot. I miss spending time with them, being around them, riding. And so I thought, okay, like therapeutic riding, that's something that could very easily be a future career path for me to support with. And I have both the horse skills and then the people skills to be able to help with that. So I signed up and said, sure, what do you need? And they got back to me right away, and I went through orientation. And last week was my first week, and so I'm coming back again today. I've been volunteering as a horse leader, which what that means is I literally lead the horse around in lessons. So that way the rider is able to focus on their riding, their posture, their balance, and the therapeutic components as opposed to what is the horse doing. And then also the horse leader, it is also a bit of a safety role in making sure that if the rider has any difficulties, you are responsible for making sure that the horse gets out of the way or is not otherwise jeopardizing the rider's safety. And so I did the first one last week, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it much more than I thought I would, because sometimes I get shy around new people, and especially around kids. But the girl that I supported last week was great, and I told her pretty early, like, hey, I'm pretty new to being a horse walker, so we're going to like figure this out together. And she had a great time with that and was very patient with me, and had a good time talking to me about the horse that she was on, which I appreciated. And it was just wonderful to get to groom and tack up and be around a barn again. It just felt so good. Like emotionally, it felt so good. I feel so fortunate, and like it was serendipity that I found that posting when I did. Like, hey, we're looking for these volunteers, and that, for now at least I'm able to help out. The downside is that if I do change my schedule, I'm not going to be able to help out on Fridays, and that worries me a bit. I need to look and see how I will still be able to support the organization, even if I can't help on Fridays. Because this is something that I think is important for my emotional well-being and my spirit and my soul. So I got to work that one out. But otherwise, okay, let me go through the weekly report. So the report stands for reading, eating, playing or practicing, obsessing, recommending, and then thinking or treating. So reading, I have been reading a couple different things. Last week, I finished a fantasy book. I read two. I read one fantasy book. It's called The Goddess Of. It's by Randy Gardner. It's the first in a series. There's currently 2 books out. It is a romantasy. which is not my typical genre. I like fantasy a lot, but I'm not really a romance girly. But I had followed this author on Instagram before the book came out, and the concept was interesting to me. It was a very easy read, very lighthearted. Well, not actually, no, I wouldn't say it's lighthearted. It deals with some intense stuff, but it was an easy read. I didn't have to do a lot of thinking, but it did like tug at the heartstrings. It made me cry in a couple points, which surprised me. But, you know, also I am a Pisces, so I shouldn't be surprised. But it was good. It was good. If you like romantasy, you'll probably enjoy it. It fills a lot of the usual tropes, but in an enjoyable way. In a like, oh, I like these tropes and this is why I like these tropes. The world building had some interesting components to it. The character writing, the dialogue was a little shaky, but not heinous. So yeah, if you're someone who likes romantasy, I would definitely recommend checking it out. It was cute. There is a second book that I most likely will read. I want to get it from the library, but the second book focuses on a gay couple, and so I definitely want to read it. The first book focused on a straight couple, but it's very clear that even though this was a straight couple, that the author is an ally. Like, it was not an aggressively straight book. It didn't have a lot of the heterosexual tropes that you sometimes find in romance novels. So that I appreciated. And then I actually read another romance book. Surprisingly, I read two back to back, which is very atypical for me. I read Deep End by Ali Hazelwood because I had placed a library hold on it, you know, when the book first came out. And so 6 months later, because it's an Ali Hazelwood book, it was finally up for me. And I was like, you know what? Okay, like, sure, why not? I am having a bit of an identity crisis because I really enjoy Ali Hazelwood books. And as much as I say I'm not a romance reader, I like her books. I do. I like the way she writes characters. I like the way that she approaches sexuality and intimate relationships between adults. Fair warning, Deep End is not a book for kids at all. Spice level is quite high, and it deals with some pretty intense topics. Don't let your kids read Deep End. But if you are an adult, I would highly recommend it, especially if you're in your like 20s or 30s. I think it'll resonate. As the character deals with a lot of like her own identity inside of intimate relationships, and how that also blends with her outside like identity. Just kind of the interplay between those things and how it's like she is the same person both inside and outside of relationships, and the interplay between those things. I don't see that addressed a lot in romance books, but I think it's a very real aspect of life. So it was encouraging to read about a character kind of come to terms with those things. So that's what I was reading. Eating. What have I been eating lately? The bread. I mean, the bread that I was talking about, I ate, you know, making the bread. That was great. What else? Did I eat anything particularly good? Taters and I went to a milkshake restaurant or milkshake parlor. I don't know, store, shop, vendor last week, that I've been wanting to try out for a while. And it was very cute. It was definitely, more about the hype of the store and not necessarily the quality of the milkshakes. So I don't know if we'll be going back because I think they were overpriced, but it was a very fun, just like week date to do together. Like of, okay, we're going to go do this. We're in the area and I've been wanting to do it for a little while to check this place out. So like, let's just go do it. And so that was fun. I had a cheerwine float. That was pretty good because I do like cheerwine. But still, I don't think it was necessarily worth the high price of the drink. Then playing. I mean, I've mostly been playing YouTube videos or podcasts. Like I said, the Culture Study podcast, I've gone down a full rabbit hole of that. It's hosted by Anne Helen Peterson, who I have seen some of her work before, her written work, and I've enjoyed it. And then I forget how it ended up on my, to listen on Spotify, but I finally clicked play on it, and it's been good. It has been so good. She is very good at picking interesting guests, and the way the podcast works is so Anne Helen Peterson is the host, and she brings on a guest who is an expert in their field in some way, and then they respond to listener questions, the vetted listener questions. And I do have to say the quality of the questions is quite high. It's always appropriate to the topic that they want to talk about. It's well thought through. The answers are always measured. And then she and the guest have good discussion around the questions and the answers. It's not just like, oh, here's your answer, and then you move on to the next one. They really only go through 3 or 4 questions per episode. So they're spending a lot of time with each thought, which I appreciate as someone who really likes to go deep into topics. And it's a wide array of topics. It's things from like I said, the non-budget approach to financial education to like the impact of Irish pop culture on the US, so it's like all over the place stuff, depending on, whatever you want. And it's quite interesting. So I've been really, really enjoying that. I listened to an episode on Meghan Markle and Meghan Markle's new Netflix show, which I have no interest in watching. But the interview, as they talked about it from a cultural analysis standpoint, was really interesting. Like, that's the kind of thing that I enjoy thinking about. So that's been good. For obsessing, what have I been obsessing over? I mean, diamond painting, per usual. This is what I want to do. I want to diamond paint. And and listen to YouTube videos. Not much has changed there. Are recommending. What am I recommending? The Culture Study podcast. I am also recommending. Yeah, I guess on that note, I recommend that if you're somebody who listens to podcasts and you've got a backlog saved of things like, oh, I want to listen to this at some point. And if you're like me and that backlog is long, I do recommend just randomly picking one and say, you know what, this is a little bit different from what I've been listening to right now, but it is still in my interest list and I'm just going to listen to it. I recommend doing that because if nothing else, it will get you thinking about something a little bit different and you're going to figure out, okay, do I want to listen to more from this podcaster or not? And it just shakes your brain up a little bit, invites just a bit of novelty, but in a way that isn't too overwhelming or threatening. So yeah, that's what I'm recommending. And then treating. What am I treating myself to? Oh, we bought Taters and I, we bought a piece of cake yesterday. We bought a lemon cream cake slice from Publix because I love lemon. I love lemon desserts. And I've been on a cake kick, like a squishy cake kick. Like at the celebration cake, I think I talked about in the past WIP and Chat. I'm still obsessed. And so I saw they had this like cream cake, and it's basically just cake layers with lemon whipped cream. And it was like, oh, bet, perfect. So we bought that and as a treat. And so that's what I've been nibbling on. It's not exactly what I wanted. I wish the lemon was a bit stronger, but it's fine, and it's, you know, a fun little treat. It's not like we made a huge investment on it. It's just one of those things of like, you know what? Okay, this is fine. This is a fine little treat. So yeah, that's what I've been treating. So that wraps up the weekly report. Then I do have a couple more videos I want to film. I still haven't done an ambiance video that I want to do. And then I know Diet Coke and Diamonds, she tagged me in another diamond painting question video that I still have not gotten around to. I might be able to film it tomorrow. I might not. I'm not sure. We have a event that we're going to tomorrow night, and so we'll see what the day looks like otherwise. But if nothing else, I'm really glad that I did finally sit down and get over the inertia and film this WIP and Chat. It's time for me to go pet the horsies, like I mentioned, so I'm going to do that. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you liked this and you're interested in more rambles and just kind of general updates, you know, please subscribe. I'd appreciate it, being able to chat with y'all again more regularly. Let me know in the comments if you have any like podcast recommendations, things that you've been listening to, things that have been making you think recently, or let me know what your thoughts are on, you know, just some of the stuff that we talked about. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day, a rest of your week, and that if you are crafting as well, that your crafts go great. Thanks again. Bye.